And next, I have a quiz. I guess I have a question for the audience. How old is the youngest Bitcoiner you've met? Shout. How old is the youngest Bitcoiner you've met? 9? I heard 9. 13. 5 months. Well, are they like voluntarily becoming Bitcoiners themselves? Did they talk to you? I'll give you the benefit of doubt. But next time I'll verify. We talk about orange peeling more people. We talk about how do we bring Bitcoin adoption to the next generation of the world. And now we will be welcoming our next guest, Samantha de Waal, who's a young Bitcoiner who will be talking to us about how to orange peel her peer. The first sentence of the description of her panel is, how old will you be in the year 2050? And she will be 39. Do the math. And welcoming Samantha de Waal, 13-year-old Bitcoiner, will be diving into the topic of orange peeling the next generation from today. Welcome, Samantha.
Technical issues, one moment. Okay, so thank you. Hi, I'm Samantha de Waal, and I really want to talk about how to shape the future through educating the kids through Bitcoin, because I think it's a really important thing. So maybe some of you know me. A lot of faces here I already know. But in case you don't know me, my name is Samantha de Waal, aka Sam the BTC Kid, and I'm 13 years old. I'm a half Kiwi, which means New Zealander, and a half German, and I'm a lifelong Bitcoiner. I spent my whole life knowing Bitcoin, using Bitcoin. It's very natural to me. I've been speaking at conferences since I was 11 years old. Actually, my first one was when I was 11 years old here at Adopting Bitcoin, not at this location, of course, but at Adopting Bitcoin 2 years ago when I was 11 years old. This was me back then when I started presenting. I've obviously changed a lot. And I'm guessing most of you didn't change so much in 2 years. When you're adults, you look the same, you kind of think the same. Of course, you're always open-minded to new ideas. But we kids have this superpower. We kids change very quickly and learn very quickly. For example, 13 years ago, I wasn't able to walk or talk, but now I'm on a stage presenting in front of people, and it's kind of scary. Why am I telling you about how much I've grown? Good question. Well, I'm talking about the superpower that I have. My dad grew up only speaking English. My mom grew up only speaking German. But I've grown up bilingual. When you're bilingual, you notice a lot of stuff, or of course, when you're trilingual or speak multiple languages, you notice a lot of stuff like, oh, I can connect how this word in this language actually makes sense because I can connect it to this word in this other language. And it just kind of seems obvious to you. When you grow up only speaking one language, this may not seem as obvious, but it can still. This is true to, like I said, bilingual and multilingual kids, and not so true to when you learn other languages later. Now, the exact same thing is for learning about Bitcoin and kids growing up with Bitcoin. When you learn about Bitcoin, it's the same as my dad learning German. He only grew up speaking English, so German was foreign, and he still gets a lot of things mixed up, like the Artikel, der, die, das, is something that he still can't get right, and I kind of laugh sometimes. And when you just don't teach your kids so early about Bitcoin, they can still get stuff mixed up, and it's better if you give them a natural flow and have them started on Bitcoin very early. For me, I'm Bitcoin native. Other kids aren't. And I don't blame them for being Bitcoin natives. I mean, it's not their decision. They didn't decide as a baby, hey, mom, dad, don't teach me about Bitcoin. So always try to teach them about Bitcoin because it does open a lot in the future for them about learning about money and how it works and just learning about the world. Now, I've said this at a few conferences already, but I do want to mention it again. Non scholae sed vitae discimus. This is Latin. It means it is not for school, but for life that we are learning. It means we shouldn't be learning to get good grades or in order to, make our teachers proud. This happens at too many schools that teachers are like, oh yeah, you can't do this and this because because the school system said this and this, we have to do it like this. For example, me at this conference, I'm actually sick right now. I'm not allowed to be here. But I do it anyways because I think I have to learn for life. And this is so much better than sitting in a classroom and hearing my teacher talk this and this and this and this. It's always the same, it's always monotone. This is giving me a whole lot of new experiences and I absolutely love it. Most kids don't really know so much about Bitcoin. So even if they're the same age as me, it doesn't automatically mean that they're natives like me. I grew up with Bitcoin, which makes me a Bitcoin native. If they're the same age as me and don't know about Bitcoin, they're not a Bitcoin native. And like I said earlier, it's not their fault if they're not a Bitcoin native. But you parents do need to be aware that you should make you should make your kids Bitcoin natives. I'm really enjoying the Bitcoin para niños, by the way. If you haven't seen it yet, you should totally check it out. They're teaching so much to the kids about Bitcoin. And yeah, for you parents out there who aren't raising your kids as Bitcoin natives, why not? Why don't you start now? But why am I speaking about this? Why should you care about being Bitcoin natives? My dad speaks German. And even if he's not completely fluent because he's not mother tongue in German, he can still make himself understandable, right? If you teach kids Bitcoin later, they'll still be able to use it and understand it, right? Well, you should care because Bitcoin is more than just money. It's about fixing a lot of problems in the world, mainly the authoritarianism and government control, which I'm pretty sure most of you don't want in the future. So, future. Let's talk about that. In the year 2050, how old will you be? Go on, work it out. I'll give you a moment. Most of you are probably pretty old. It's 26 years from now. I'll be 39, and so will all the other kids my age. My generation will be the generation making decisions for the world. We inherit the world that you leave us. But we also get to shape it ourselves. Do you think it's better if we shape it with the mindset of, I grew up with fiat and Bitcoin is this thing I learned, or I grew up with Bitcoin and fiat and know and understand the positives, the negatives, and everything that revolves around it? Or do you think it's better if we build it a bright orange future? The fiat future is a lot of authoritarianism, war, and hate. It's a future you don't want your kids to end up with. It's a future where just a few people get to decide what happens to everyone else. It's a future where you're monitored. It's a future where if the cooperations in the states don't like something you do, you will be punished. We can already see this future with things like CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, where they can see every transaction you make and decide whether it's okay or not. It's scary and depressing, and it's definitely not the world I want to live in when I'm an adult. Instead, I choose my path to try and make it a bright orange future. The path where not only money is fair, but where we work on making everything else fair too. I choose a future where freedom matters. I choose a future where everyone has the chance to be the best version of themselves. And I choose a future where they can choose to be who they are. That means I choose Bitcoin. And I need you to choose it with me. Help the next generation grow up as future Bitcoin natives, and together we can make this future real. Thank you very much.